Okay, but there's one major problem with this. Even if everyone were on board with mimicking their reproduction system to fix our conflict problem, humans can't physically do that. We don't have some kind of natural queen among humans that can maintain the current world population. By the way, the reason it has to be the whole world, encompassing all of humanity, is that in order to create the conditions for humans to evolve to be non-hostile towards each other, we would need it to be on a global scale, or we will probably still have wars raging between humans just like ants between their colonies. Anyway, at best a female human could produce perhaps a 3-digit number of children during her lifetime with medical aid. Not to mention the ethical issue because, let's face it, no woman would want to spend her life as a living child factory. Also, even if it would work, it would result in a lot of inbreeding which wouldn't work out well for humans in the long run. But hey, what if we could do all that artificially with science and technology and that kind of stuff? Then we wouldn't need a human hive colony queen, but could instead just have a certain sector of society where we have the production of new human individuals. Then all those conflicts among humans could disappear, right? No more fighting over men and women, and no reason for anyone to slaughter others to make room for their own children. This is because the only children coming into the world then would be the ones produced by the society as a whole. It would then collectively be seen as the older generation's younger siblings, or something like that. Then it would be evolutionarily beneficial for people to not be selfish and hostile towards one another, right? Well, as long as no one obtains artificial immortality, but other than that it should become an evolutionary advantage for people to work together through and through, just like bees with their hives and ants with their colonies. Okay, so we now have a picture of what needs to be done. The question then is just how to make this a reality. There are a few things that need to happen. A way to make humans that doesn't require humans, an upbringing system, as well as a worldwide collaboration on this issue, and finally all natural forms of reproduction must cease. The first and most difficult part of the whole thing is creating new human individuals in an artificial way. This would require 2 steps. First of all, the production of the first embryonic stem cells. The second part would be making what people call an artificial womb, though that term is sort of misleading as its purpose will only be to be an environment for the human development stages before birth and not the sexual reproduction part. The second part is pretty straightforward. Just build a machine that can replicate this process. It's something that scientists are already working on. By the way, the first part though is way too complicated and difficult to be done in the near future using mere technology. Recreating an embryonic stem cell from scratch, that's not easy, I can tell you. The more realistic approach would be to get samples from already existing humans and work from there. One would probably have to do something like creating immortal stem cell lines and artificially recreating things like biological diversity. As for the natural selection part, it would then also have to be done artificially. One would choose the best traits by copying those of the best candidates in the process, and in our case it would also have to include those traits that cause people to live in peace and harmony with each other. As you can imagine, a lot of scientific and technological breakthroughs have to be achieved, but it should be something that is possible. In theory, if nature can make it by accident, then we should be able to accomplish it intentionally. One may be wondering why this whole making it only artificially has to be in place. Why can't we do something like donate sperm cells and egg cells and then just use artificial wombs, as it would be a lot easier? Well, humans may be able to make errors, but the laws of this world will not. A similar competition to the one already in place will come forth, because those that work hard to have their particular traits passed on will be the ones favored, and therefore it will still be beneficial for people to be selfish and betray each other, etc. You may be able to convince people that it will work, but in the end future generations will have to pay the price. As humans may not have as strong personal emotional attachment to others through this system, the result could potentially end up even worse. It may be okay to start using that kind of system as a step towards a fully human-free one, but it can end up having devastating consequences in the future if it's kept long-term. Next, for the more practical parts, A system of creating humans this way then needs to be placed in society and would need to be a universal system for humanity, as I've said before, meaning that the only people coming into the world are made this way in one single system. It doesn't have to start on that scale, but it needs to end there, or humans will always be divided. Making multiple smaller systems will only bring the same effect as multiple colonies and hives living together. It's only a matter of time before they fight with each other. It also means that no upper class or royal line that is made in a separate system can exist, but everyone, and I mean everyone, has to be made through the same system, period, making one united race or whatever. What traits they should have can probably the people who's going to work on this figure out themselves. I will just tell you that it's at least a very bad idea to not have a decent equilibrium between the number of males and females, not only for the social aspect, but if something were to go wrong with this system, it would be very difficult for humans to maintain their numbers without it. Now, all this is probably something that the UN or something similar can enforce when the time comes for that. The earlier foundation has to be established first though. When I said that all humans have to be made this way, it also means that all, and I mean all, natural reproduction of humans has to cease permanently after such a system is implemented. Whether you ban sex, sterilize everyone, make mandatory abortion for all who get pregnant, etc. is something people should be able to figure out themselves. Just choose a method that gets the job done and in a humane way. Know that this will not work if this also doesn't happen. Seeing as humans in highly industrialized and highly ethics-centered countries don't have such a high birth rate to begin with, this shouldn't be a major issue for them. Note that it's imperative that the necessary measures to make this system a reality has to be put in place first and is working properly, or you will have a population collapse. Lastly, of course, there's the upbringing part, which should be simple enough that humans can easily come up with the solution themselves. After all, people taking care of children that aren't their own is something that's already happening today and has happened for a long time. It also often goes well in those cases, so that shouldn't be that much of an issue for people to figure out a working system for. It should definitely be something that can be practically implemented. That's it. Now, if all this becomes a reality, it's unrealistic to believe that the world will suddenly be turned into a perfect utopia. But friction between humans should hopefully decrease to the point that they stop physically fighting amongst each other. One thing worth mentioning though is that implementing it will not help humans live in harmony with other animals. It will only help creating harmony between humans. It could probably also work on other animals to make them peaceful with their own kind, but not between different kinds of animals. Before I end this video, I would like to say that I know that this isn't exactly your world-class informative video. There are multiple things that could be said and done better, no doubt. It was simply to present this idea to those who've never heard of it, or at least spark creativity among people to work on a solution to this issue in a scientific manner and stop relying on the goodwill of people. Of course, it would be nice if we all were good people towards each other, but when one is to solve a problem, one has to see things for what they really are. Many people say that love is the answer to making the world a better place, but I say that hating and destroying that which stands in our way to make life better for us is what's truly necessary to make it happen. A final thing I would like to say is, if someone else is willing to do something with this, or straight up copying and even claiming it as their own idea, it's not something I am particularly concerned with in of itself, as long as the important parts aren't screwed up and it can contribute to solving the issue. I'm not interested in getting attention. I simply wish that this problem would go away. That's all. The end.